Now every startup is a tech startup. So what is a true tech startup now?
The way I look at it is in two ways. Is tech an enabler or is tech a differentiator? Especially, let's say you're investing in an innovative product, space technology, 10 years later, you will have nothing to show for the first 5, 6, 7 years. You know the founders are working, but you are not sitting in the office every day, so you don't even know if the founder is showing to office every day, and you don't even know if the founder needs to show up to the office every day. In a startup, the founder is the person who thinks of the idea, then executes, then also brings the coffee, and then also drinks it.
I would like to mention about what recently this transformation stalwart said in the G20 summit, speaking exclusively on startup ecosystem and how he feels. He's nobody else but Amitabh Kant himself, speaking of it's imperative that startups should prioritize good governance.
Absolutely.
Right? And he voiced out that there needs to be more than one way of tackling the risk management and nail the governance in the ecosystem. What do you think can be done at a government, at a policy level for mitigating the risk that complements the risk, the steps that platform like you takes, and how can these policy work along with platforms like you to come up with the best of the framework?
We'll be very happy to work if invited. But at the end of the day, over-policing also doesn't help. It stunts innovation, it stunts growth. Everything cannot be explained. Especially, let's say you're investing in an innovative product, space technology, 10 years later, you will have nothing to show for the first 5, 6, 7 years. You know the founders are working, but you are not sitting in the office every day, so you don't even know if the founder is showing to office every day, and you don't even know if the founder needs to show up to the office every day.
Yeah.
That innovation, that thinking could be happening even in their houses,
Right.
or even on a trip, or even on a learning trip, right? So, should there be a strong corporate governance? Absolutely. But again, I will not want to make it overzealous. I want to remind everybody that these kind of things happen in public markets also, where all the laws have already been laid down.
Do you think this is coming more from a point of view of numbers being fudged, the users shown in exponential numbers?
It's happening in every industry.
Right.
It's not just startups. It's unfortunate. It should not happen anywhere.
Anywhere, right.
It's happening in every industry. It should not happen in any industry. But are there only dishonest people are only there in private world? No, that's not true. Right? So again, can the policies be improved? But at the end of the day, every private limited has to be audited. Those audited financials have to be uploaded.
Right.
And should investors get more involved? That is where I will say they should. I think we owe it to ourselves as private investors to get involved. We encourage at IPV for the investors to join, not just come once in 3 months. Come frequently, come often, talk to the founders, help them, right? And look at things which are which visibly don't look correct. Right? They're very smart people. They can tell when things are not visibly looking correct.
Right.
So we should look at all those things. We are happy to work with what government is thinking, but one thing I will, again, at the cost of repeating myself, over-policing has never helped anybody. People who have to commit, they will still find a way to commit.
Right, right. Yeah, that's true, of course. In various ways we have seen and witnessed. But each time there is a scam or something like this blows up, it just tarnishes the image of the country.
Absolutely.
And all the efforts that has gone built to create a transparent system or a more robust system of governance. Remember the most famous Satyam scam. It was the apple of our eyes as a company which is into technology, and it is listed in India. It's an Indian company we gave to the world, and the governance lapse out there just brought India's image several notches down. I think the government's effort in this space is basically to avoid scams that can be avoided. And as you mentioned in the beginning also that sometime bad startups get funded and good ideas don't get takers. So there is a multiple permutation combination that happens, but at the end investors need to take cognizance while you are performing the duty of the platform and doing the required checks and balances, and maybe at your own level of scrutiny or evaluation, you can embed certain more elements which can probably ease the nerves of the regulator as well as policymakers, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean,
Right.
if there is something that can be done without, again, the only thing is that we don't see at the end of that, these are startups. They can't afford to have very expensive chartered accountants. They can't afford to have, you're going to fund 2 crores to a startup in its early stage, sometimes 1 crore. I've just funded 50 lakhs to one startup, right? It's a very early stage startup trying to build a new product, right? So we have funded them at an early stage. They can't afford to have a big four doing
Right.
their auditing or a very large CA firm. So what should not happen is that early stage startups can't even grow because they are burdened under the
Already with the
all the regulations and filings for which they'll have to either hire a lot of people or the founder is not able to do anything else except because again in a startup the founder is the person who thinks of the idea, then executes, and also brings the coffee and then also drinks it, right? So that's where we need to strike a balance, where we need to recognize even if a startup is valued at 80 crores, right? But if they're only raising 3 crores, the 3 crores has to go in hiring people, has to go in some infrastructure, has to grow in some working capital. Even they will not be able to hire a very, very big. So doesn't mean that the founder should go unaccounted for. They should still be held responsible. That is where I'm saying that more than the policies, it is us, not just IPV as a platform, but you and me as investors to actively get involved. And not all of us will get involved in all the things. And that is where the power of plenty comes in. We have 8,000 plus investors, right? In any typical startup, 150 people have typically invested. We need only 3 or 4 people per startup. So if you have a 4,000 base, you have 172 people per startup. Like, I mean, it's totally doable.
Right.
So those kind of things are required.
Yeah. So one of the last questions, Ankur, and I'm just enjoying this interview so much. There's so much to learn from you and insights coming in, pouring actually. So there used to be technology used to be a category earlier of startups. Now
Everything
every
is tech.
startup is a tech startup.
Yes.
So what is a true tech startup now?
Even I'm struggling now.
Okay.
Even when a food delivery company comes like a food tech startup and I'm like, okay, where is this tech here? Like, Cloud Kitchen is now saying we are a food tech company. So there could be a tech that I'm missing. But I view them as a simple restaurant business. But I think some level of tech is in every space. But it is not correct to call every business. So there are the way I look at it is in 2 ways. Is tech an enabler or is tech a differentiator? So in businesses where tech is the differentiator, for me, these are the truly tech companies.
Okay.
And then everything else is in tech enablement. So when it's a cloud kitchen or whether it is a consumer brand, their tech is the enabler.
Right.
They will sell through, different e-commerce. They will sell through, omni-channel, like, this strategy, that strategy. They will integrate themselves with different startups, so on and so forth, right? They will probably hire another startup to forecast inventory for them to help them better. But at the end of the day, the tech is an enabler.
That's an interesting.
Tech differentiator is where the quality of your tech is going to decide your success. The product is tech.
Product is tech.
In
So
a
one
tech
is a differentiator you mentioned, and the other is the
Tech enabler.
Enabler. That's how you can segregate.
That's
the
how
idea.
segregate. So for me, where the tech is the product, for me that's a technology company. So so there is consumer tech, and then there is consumer tech enabled, right? So these are all different platforms or ways to categorize.
Interesting.
So for me, whether it is Fabheads or whether it is NeuroPixel or whether it is EaseMyAI or whether it is here, the tech is a differentiator. But even if I look at a very standard business like, we recently invested in the startup called, let's say, Ben & Gauze. They are solving for an inefficiency and they have a potential to become a very large company by solving for that inefficiency. But for them to become a 100x company from there, so today the tech is an enabler, But for them to become a very, very large company, the tech has to become a differentiator, because for them to scale, they will need to, they can't scale on the strength of human base. They will have to install IoTs, and they'll have to install vision AIs, and they'll have to install, a lot of technology where a lot of quality assessment, which is very critical to their success, is done remotely via tech without human intervention. So
Interesting.
up to a scale, they can become a tech enabled business, but then beyond a point, they will have to become a tech differentiator. So that is also the way businesses will evolve. And at some stage, when the product is ready, then they have to just sell it. So for a lot of B2B SaaS businesses, once the tech is ready, then they sell it like an enabled business, because now the tech is ready. It has to be improved,
Yes, tweaked a bit
here and there,
kind of,
but it's more or less ready. Right. So the product is ready. It just has to be enabled for different clients, and then installed, and then tweaked, and then personalized, and then the AI takes care of, all the learnings and the data. So there they will start as a tech product, but then they will move into the other space.
Wow. No, absolutely. This also makes me think every few years there is a trend. And this entire FOMO also came out of that trend. Have I missed an edutech company and all?
Yes.
And
by the way, we've invested in the least number of edtechs in 2021. We exited many of our portfolio.
Okay, lovely.
That's a good time to exit.
Totally. And speaking of that, what do you think the global investors and allocators, or global LPs, so to say, should not miss this time? What's happening in India?
They should not miss India.
They should not miss India.
They should
Forget
not miss
the sectors.
India. Forget the sectors.
But seriously, you would still have some top sectors.
See, we are just scratching the surface.
Okay.
We have not solved any problem completely. India is a land of problem, and therefore India is a land of opportunities. There are many problems to be solved. 1.4 billion people brings a lot of problems. It brings a lot of opportunities, but it brings a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So, and the world is changing, and technology is developing faster. So I think, the theme is don't miss India. Every sector, every space, like look at logistics. There are some big unicorns in logistics space, right? There are some large companies in logistics space, but still there are so many inefficiencies that still can be solved. Right. Similarly, in e-commerce, you have the rise of vertical commerce now. Now you have rise of D2C brands now.
Yes.
Problem is that most of the big brands that you know today, global brands, they all have been products of Europe and US. And so they have been for Caucasian skins, lighter skins. It is a established fact that those skin products will not work the same on darker skins. Darker skins have their own challenges. Now the darker skin can be different shades of brown, but depending upon how close you are to the equator, right? But it will have a different impact. So now, when you have solved the problem of mass market, now you're solving the problem of smaller markets, right? So that's what India is. We have solved some big problems, but some bigger problems are left to be solved. Some smaller problems can become big tomorrow, and then they will have to be solved. And then there are some pockets we have not even looked into today.
Yeah, it sounds like an afsana which will carry on.
It should carry on. Again, I am like you asked me, who am I? I'm somebody who, look, I have an image that the ISRO scientist before launch went to a mandir. So there is a photograph, and that is us. That is me. We can believe in science and we can believe in tech.
Yes.
But I do my prayer every morning.
Right.
Because I believe there is a superpower above us. Right. So many people were making fun of that image, and I never could understand, because this is our culture, this is our values.
Yes.
We believe in science,
right,
but that doesn't mean we are atheist. We don't. They both can go together. We can believe in God and believe in science.
I think you've said something so wonderful.
So I think,
in fact, some of the students from Mahindra Engineering College, Hyderabad, and I was working, in fact, still working on the power of intangibles over tangibles.
Yes.
The intangible is the prayer.
Yes.
To somebody. And the tangible is landing on
I
moose.
still go to Vaishno Devi. That's when I discovered chayos being served in a train.
Wow.
That's when I took a train after 20. I used to just take a flight to Jammu and then drive. But then everybody said there's a Vande Bharat from Delhi to Katra.
Wow.
So I said, okay, let's take a train.
I have to take one.
So 8 hours train, no problem. Starts at 6 a.m., 2 p.m. you reach there.
Wow.
And they serve, it's clean.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, right? We have invested in a startup which helps in cleanliness.
Okay.
Next thing you know, tomorrow that could be the one product being used in these trains because they have to be kept clean.
Wow,
But
absolutely.
that's where, that was my trip. But yeah, I mean, so much to be done here.
Awesome. No, that's fantastic. We're gonna take a pause, and I'm gonna call the producer. And what
Okay.
happened?
It was a good one. Loved meeting you. Had a chance to meet Vinay also.
Excellent.
And had a chance to meet other Alam. So a great mixer. Loved your presentation and everything.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
a
the
sweet
second
part.
time that we're meeting actually.
Again,
This-
just me talking.
No, this time exclusively. Okay, not just talking. But the beauty is that, when I told him that Ankur Mittal will come, I didn't expect that he will know you. Okay. But he said, Ankur Mittal is coming. I said, don't get it wrong. It is not Anupam Mittal.
Ha.
Okay. But then, no.
Or
Me calling Anupam
or
Ankur.
Lakshmi Mittal, or
No,
it's a
no.
famous last name.
No, he said, no, I know Ankur Mittal and I have attended this. I said, IPV hai to same hai. I said, what happened? So I said, did you go for investments to them? He said, yeah, I went and I rejected. But I'm happy that I got the rejection. Listen to
So,
that
yeah,
part.
so we
He was
are-
happy that IPV did not invest. He got rejected. And that's where his journey started, by the way.
Wow.
So yeah, we were happy because post rejection we had a chance to think about the stuff, how things were, and we kind of realigned the business that we're doing and
Excellent.
kind of pivoted the things to changing the priorities.
See, the
of
smile on your
of-
face says that you're happy doing what you're doing
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
So that pivot is working.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is far more important than anything.
Yeah,
Totally.
So it's about that thing that we learn from the rejections. So we took the rejection.
We hope
positively.
you are our first anti-portfolio.
Yeah. No, that's
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
totally. No, bilkul. I was chatting with them and I said, this is the new India. This is the generation of startups which are taking rejection so positively.
Absolutely. See, I
And,
mean, it is unheard of, right? Indians
right.
don't take rejections easily.
Yeah. And
So-
that is the reason why I chose them, and because they're learning in every mistakes of theirs. Thank you, Ankur, for joining me for this Enigma series.
No, pleasure is all mine.
And I definitely know which are the next series to call you for.
Excellent. No, look
Lo-
forward, and great interaction.